Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Astrology with Ethan YouTube channel and podcast. My name is Ethan, and today we are doing another YouTube video installment of one of the 12 houses. The 12 houses are the 12 triangles in a birth chart that describe 12 different areas of life. And based on the zodiac sign you have in one of these houses, the planets you have in one of these houses, it's going to give you a big source of insight to the way you play out this part of life. So today we're focusing on the 11th house, which is a wonderful house in the birth chart. It describes our experience of groups, of friendship, and of hopes and wishes. So, being in traditional astrology, the house where Jupiter joys, this house is also associated with things like optimism, expansion, where you have a spiritual purpose, and where you can really benefit other people. So, it's a massively powerful house in this way. It is a succedent house, which means that it is supporting one of the angles, and the angle it supports is the 10th house. Now, the 10th house is about our career, our public image, and the greater thing that we carry into the world, what we're remembered for. So I really think of the 11th house as the people, the places, the opportunities that help us hoist up our 10th house, that help us erect that monument, right, that we are remembered by. So it's an extremely important house to consult if you are trying to build a team or find a community or be a leader of a community, because it's really going to show the energies of that journey, whatever's placed in the 11th house, the sign or planets. So we're going to walk through the 7 traditional planets and their domicile zodiac signs to talk about what it could mean if you have any of the signs or planets here. Okay. So to begin with Saturn in the 11th house, Saturn and Jupiter are sort of at odds with each other, right? So Jupiter, which joys in the 11th house, which describes a lot of 11th house activity, it's about expanding our worldview. It's about expanding our horizons. And the 11th house is community. So this is describing the process of when we go into community, we learn something about ourselves we didn't know previously, right? We literally expand through our relationships, through other people. Saturn, meanwhile, joys in the 12th house. So we know that then Saturn brings us more isolation, more fatigue, more withdrawal. We're less inclined to be social when we're dealing with Saturn, because Saturn is ultimately about establishing our own inner authority. So it's not so much when you have Saturn in the 11th house about being the social butterfly, about being the captain of the cheerleading squad. It is saying, if you have Saturn in the 11th house, that groups and communities are something that you could feel a distance from. You can feel a bit like an outsider. You can feel like you need more time to yourself than the average person. This is sort of the introvert we're describing. By the way, Saturn rules Aquarius and Capricorn. So if you had either of those 2 signs here, this logic could apply as well, right? Because they are both Saturnian signs. So speaking to those archetypes, Aquarius, Capricorn, Saturn, you put them in the 11th house, and there's this feeling of, where do I belong? There's this feeling of, who can I go to help me get my dream off the ground? You also might be somebody who keeps your dreams to yourself, and who might be a little bit afraid of sharing your ideas or sharing your work with other people, right? Saturn can also be our fears. So because Saturn brings maturity and rewards, if we stick with it, so over time, This can mean that in the first 30 years of life, this is a more challenging placement for some, because in the first 30 years of life, you can really feel these themes strongly. But after your first Saturn return, you actually might start to see that one of the reasons you feel held back in this area is because of people pleasing. So Saturn is about boundaries. It is about authority. So authority and boundaries go hand in hand because we will naturally know our boundaries when we know who we are. Before that, we're very impressionable, which, you might not expect with Saturn in the 11th house. Like, oh, that would be somebody who's, sitting on the sidelines who doesn't want to participate. And that's very possible. But it could also be somebody who is very participant, who assumes also a lot of responsibility in community spaces, who is very mature in their friendship circles. And part of this could be because the Saturnian authority is being realized through the reactions, the responses, or even the hopes and wishes of other people. So part of your work, if you have a Saturnian placement here, is to really understand your own authority, your own voice, what your hopes and wishes are, and then to proclaim them and be really a leader. I think that this placement over time can grow into a real leader because Saturn is that wise sage. The 11th house can really benefit from that. Other people can really benefit from you knowing who you are, from you having clear boundaries, from you having clear goals. And oftentimes that is going to take us out of the group. So it doesn't mean you don't want to participate. If anything, I think our Saturn placement really shows us like where we want something, but where we feel limited. So you might really want the connections, you might really want the community, but the reason you're being limited is because Saturn being that furthest planet out, it's sort of the last in our chart to develop, right? It's sort of the last part of us that clicks. And it's because it deals with maturity. It deals with knowing thyself. So the more you know thyself, the more the group and community you align with will feel good and feel right. And then you can really take charge on any vision that springs forth in you or your group with confidence. Okay, if you have Jupiter in the 11th house, as well as Pisces or Sagittarius, more broadly speaking, you are going to be somebody who might not have as many issues finding groups and communities who support your hopes, wishes, and dreams. If anything, you might have the opposite problem, which is that people get very excited about you and your ideas. You also might get very excited about other people's ideas, and you could just be involved with a lot of interesting groups throughout your life that bring expansion into the world somehow. If we look at this from a personal psychological standpoint, Jupiter is our wisdom and our intuition. So if you bring this into a community, you are going to be a natural sort of guru for people. Jupiter is the archetype of the teacher, so you could very easily teach other people, and people could really look up to you. Now, a shadow there is sometimes we can get a little bit carried away with our own power, right? We can become a bit of a cult leader if we're not careful with Jupiter in the 11th house, because everybody can just be so excited about our vision, and then we can have the insecurity of like, why does everybody look up to me so much? Why does everybody trust me? I don't know what I'm doing, And part of Jupiter is that it's so spontaneous that you could also spontaneously change dreams, change visions, change groups. And that can actually accompany this feeling of detachment. And like your relationships don't last for a super long time, or not even necessarily don't last for a long time, but they feel more impersonal, right? Because Jupiter is such this like big leading energy, you could kind of feel sometimes a little bit of that isolation because you're sort of the group leader, but you're not necessarily like, Mercury, which is the opposite. You're not like the student in the group or like the scribe in the group or like the friend of the group. You're the leader. You're like the pack leader. So that can be a little bit challenging, and you can also sort of get full of yourself in that way. But this is really overall beneficial because Jupiter wants to bless you, wants to expand you, wants you to find community, and you surely can with that placement here. Really, Jupiter in the 11th house, if you think about it, like Jupiter, I call the fairy godmother of the cosmos. And the 11th house being the place of wishes. Like, if you have a wish, you have Jupiter there, it's like, sure, it'll come true. It'll happen. Things would happen pretty easily for you on that level of your aspirations. Um, Part of navigating this, however, is aligning with a strong intuition. Jupiter, on a spiritual esoteric level, is our third eye, is our knowing, is our path to our spiritual purpose. So you might go through, cycles of withdrawal, cycles of, needing to be in nature, needing to be with yourself, needing to just really reconnect with the new vision that's being implanted in you, because you can feel, because of your power, really obligated to past things that you've done, past communities you've been part of, past friendships, past whatever. And because you are Jupiterian here, you are needing to really honor the expansive principle of your intuition to bring you into the places you're meant to be, to do the things you're meant to be. And this refreshes itself, right? Jupiter is changing signs once a year, right? So you are going to go through many glow ups here. You need to develop the okayness that you're not going to be for everyone, and not everyone's going to be around the whole time you're doing your thing. You're going to naturally expand. You're going to get beyond your hometown. You're definitely a person who's going to branch out and meet tons and tons and tons of people. So enjoy that, but don't forget that this is your journey you're on and nobody else's. Other people can be there, they can support you, they can celebrate you, but this is your intuitive, this is the place your intuitive journey has chosen to take place, is learning from other people, being a teacher to other people, and really fulfilling some incredible dreams and wishes that you have. All right, going next to Mars, or having Aries Scorpio in the 11th house. Mars, first of all, is about short-term challenges. So Mars is, the red planet. It is temperament. It is motivation. It is frustration. It is a very masculine energy. There can be a lot of passion in your friendships, in your communities. You can have a lot of passion for your vision, but there can also be burnout. There can be fatigue. There can also be, because Mars is associated with enemies, you also could just have people who don't really get you, you know, um, people who kind of, might not hop in right away. Like, Mars is sort of that hot plate in our kitchen, and, people don't want to burn themselves. Or like, maybe they're a little careful around you because, Mars is this quite volatile, fiery energy. But it also says that that fiery energy can be very motivating for people. So you could really motivate your group of friends, or your group of friends could really motivate you. There's something here about teamwork in the most sporty sense. Like, I really think with this signature as team sports, because Mars is that physical exertion of energy. And when you're in a group or community and you're doing that, it's dance, it's sports, it's playing together. So there's a lot of heat that gets generated in your friend group, which can be very exhilarating and very exciting, but it can also leave you a little bit burnt out. One of the other things about having Mars in the 11th house is Mars is descriptive of our personal source of libido, of motivation, of individuation, right? It's sort of the fire under our butts that gets us going. It's a very catalytic energy. So you might find that while your friendships could also really motivate you, they could also be a little bit blocking to what you want. And you might even at times struggle to know what you want or assert yourself because there's all these other people around. On the other hand, you might have people in your circle who are very strong-willed, who are very assertive. And the way you want to channel this energy is into something constructive. Otherwise, it can become drama. It can become burning out. It can become being really hot-headed and impulsive, right? Like a gang of punk kids or whatever. Like it can become, you know, quite overwhelming, that heat, that energy. So to put it into something constructed, to do something together where you're making use of that fiery nature of Mars, is definitely very healthy. It would also show, especially for people with night charts, that this area could be more of a challenge, you know. I mean, you could just have, specifically with Mars, the planet here, there could be more of a challenge around making friends, keeping friends, right? I mean, you could just get very passionate, and then the friendship could fizzle out after a couple weeks. You know, so there can just be a lot of flings, a lot of short-term flings with community here, rather than that kind of long-term, you know, we're going to expand, we're going to make something together, 11th house quality, right? Being that succeedant house, it's trying to kind of consistently push towards something. And with the Mars energy here, you might feel like you have to start over. Oh, I have to make new friends. I just moved to a new place. Oh, I have to find a new team. Whatever, right? So there can just be a lot of that kind of stop start going on here. But over time, you learn to master these challenges and you learn to bring people together in quite a motivating, hardworking way. So this is definitely not, well, none of them are bad placements. It's definitely not an entirely negative placement. It has those challenges, but I think they can be mitigated through using the energy you all produce together to do something really cool, to do something that is a hope, dream, or wish. And one of the other issues of Mars in the 11th house is that you can have trouble agreeing within the group, right? Like Mars is my way, my way, my way. So you could want your way, somebody else could want their way. Like there can also be a lot of disagreement. And so that produces some heat, right? That produces something to work with, something to investigate to get you on your way to your dream or goal. All right. Moving on to Venus in the 11th house. Such a lovely placement, as well as if you have Taurus Libra here, more broadly speaking. So Venus is harmony, it's friendship, it's romantic partnership, it is our experience of pleasure, of beauty, of values. So one of the things you value a lot, Venus in the 11th house, is your friendships, your groups, right? Like the people in your broader social circle are going to be very, very, very important to you. You're going to prioritize friendship a lot with this placement because Venus is our values. You know, one of the things you live and die by is community, is relationships. You also might have many lovers because Venus is also about lovers. So you could run into or meet your lover in a community group setting. You might be somebody who's kind of more comfortable dating their friends. It sounds kind of weird, but like there could kind of be that like loose boundary around, you know, the group, and definitely somebody who has an open relationship could go here as well, right? Thinking in terms of that group, that love, group love. You see what I'm saying? And your hopes and wishes can certainly be related to fields like art, beauty, nature as well. I've seen Venus in the 11th house be people who love nature groups and nature communities and community gardens, and like they love that kind of stuff. You know, Venus is our connection with the earth as well. So, you know, you might really carry that. One of the downsides to having Venus in the 11th house is that you can be a really, really, really big people pleaser. Now, Venus to me is ultimately about knowing our values. It's knowing our own internal sense of worth. And it's about having mutually interdependent, no, not interdependent. I mean, it is interdependent, but mutually independent relationships. So I have myself, you have yourself. We come together, we form a union, but we don't stay there, right? When we go to sleep at night, we each go to our own side of the bed. One of the hard things about Venus in the 11th house is that it can struggle to disentangle itself from the people around them. A lot of value, a lot of self-worth can be put on what the group thinks, right? Which means you might shy away from sort of pursuing your hopes and dreams. You can be a great support to a group, right? You might see yourself as like, yeah, I'm the support guy. I'm the support girl. Like I work on behalf of the community. And that's great, but also you don't want to diminish yourself too much. Otherwise, you're going to feel that disharmony we feel in Venus, which then creates that sort of emptiness of self because we're so relationally oriented. So definitely with this placement, you are learning to have lots of different relationships in lots of different ways, which allow you to arrive at a sense of beauty, ease, and harmony within yourself. You also just might bring a lot of love and joy generally into people's lives. Like Venus in the 11th house is somebody people love to have around. It's like they love to have them at dinner parties. They're very good at connecting with people. That's another facet here, is that you would be able to connect with lots and lots of people. Venus is that connector planet, right? Like Jupiter is too, but in that more kind of I'm the leader way. Like Venus is more like, it's a night sect planet. So it's sort of like we're cozy, we're friends, we're together. So just look out for getting lost in the crowd with this one. You bring a lot to the crowd, but you also need to remember that. You need to remember that you are the joy, you are the love, you are the relator. And that is a special gift you possess. But you also have your unique creations, your unique ideas to contribute. So don't be afraid to bring those in and to realize that everybody brings their own value, right? This could be another facet of Venus in the 11th house, is learning to see that everybody has their own values. Like not everybody is going to harmonize with you. Not everybody is going to get along with you. Everybody is coming in with their different value system, with their different belief system. So you need to be maybe more open-minded as to the kinds of relationships you pull in, because they can't all be the same. Nothing can really be that homogenous in the 11th house because it's so vast, right? It's a big group of people. It's a big community. So it's going to involve a lot of different people. Which one more thing I'll say on Venus in the 11th house, oh my gosh, diarrhea of the mouth with this one, is you also could have intimacy issues in this way. Because Venus wants closeness, not that the 11th house isn't close, right? But it's more, it's like, Venus joys in the 5th house, the opposite house to the 11th. So the 5th house is more where we have intimate relationships, including the one with ourselves. So you put Venus in the 11th house, it's a little less comfortable. It's a little less cool just being connected with anyone. Like it wants privacy, it wants intimacy. So you're also somebody who could feel comfortable experiencing intimacy in big settings, like going to parties, making friends there, right? But you might not be somebody who always actually wants that deeper level connection because the group level is enough for you. And that's okay. Not all of us need to be like super buddy buddy with everyone. So those are, yes, many manifestations of Venus in the 11th house, I know, but I'd be curious in the comments to hear if you have this placement, how you personally resonate. Okay. So moving on to Mercury in the 11th house, or Gemini or Virgo. Okay, so with Mercury, we're dealing with the only planet that is technically male and female. It is a very bisexual planet. There are, talk about variety. There's a lot of variety to Mercury in the 11th house. You can have lots of different friends with this one. Lots and lots and lots of different types of friends. You can have also lots of different hopes and wishes, often that kind of contradict each other. You could be parts of communities that even kind of contradict each other. There's a contradictory nature to Mercury, which I feel like can sometimes feel like, yes, even though you can kind of, Mercury is mercurial, right? It can kind of slip into any environment. You can slip into lots of environments, but this can also be kind of a lonely feeling, right? Like, well, I'm here, but like, where do I actually belong? The truth is, you would belong to all of these group settings. And that's what's really cool, actually, about having a Mercury related placement in the 11th house is that you get to carry the magician's wand and kind of transform yourself through all these communities. Yes, it can cause some identity problems in relationships. It can cause, a little bit of like, who am I being for who today? And that could be something you have to work on. But I think ultimately the key to this placement is that you're a curious friend. You're part of curious communities. You are somebody who needs to constantly be learning, right? Mercury is about learning and communicating and writing. So you're somebody who wants to go into different places and learn a thing or two about them. You're somebody who's very open-minded. Also, if we think about the placement of Mercury in the 11th house as sort of a leader figure, as somebody who is organizing a group, your words, your ideas organize people. Your messages play a role in organizing people. Something I have not mentioned yet about the 11th house that Mercury certainly emphasizes is social media. So because 11th house is groups, communities that are vaster than, say, the 3rd house or the 7th house, vast communities equal audience. So with Mercury in the 11th house, you could be very good at connecting with an audience or writing for an audience, or there's something an audience responds to about the words you say. The words you say have a lot of power. Your communicative faculties have a lot of power. And you also are remembered distinctly in groups because Mercury joys in the 1st house. So Mercury is all about kind of, it was called the sparkling one in ancient astrology, the planet Mercury. So there's something about you that sparkles in groups and communities. There's something that catches people's attention, right? This is the Leo rising chart if you have Gemini there. So, there's just something about people talking about you or talking with you that really feeds something in you. But what Mercury will bring here as well is it's going to bring variety. So you need to be comfortable with variety in your friendships as well as variety in your hopes and dreams, right? So you could have many dreams. There could be many things that you're working towards at once with many different types of people involved. So just be prepared for the many hat because it does come with Mercury. Hopefully I have circumambulated Mercury enough. I feel like I got a little Mercury retrograde there, but hopefully you see my point and connect with it. Let me know if you do. Okay, so having the moon or Cancer in the 11th house. This is a really lovely placement of the 11th house because the moon is about locality. It's about family. It's about the local spaces we occupy, right? So the moon in the 11th house will show that your local community plays a really big role in supporting you, in helping you achieve your hopes and wishes and dreams. The moon is also about nourishment and love and safety. So you probably have particular groups of people that you feel extra safe around. And then there's other groups of people that you don't feel as safe around. And there's that very instinctive response because the moon is it's like our instinctive spidey senses, right? It's like the instinctive knowing that like this group is safe, this group isn't, which at times could mean you take a little longer to get out of the shell, to get out of the moon, to come to Earth, to come play with everyone else, because the moon is so protective. This also means that you're very protective and caring and nurturing over your loved ones. You might kind of assume the role of the mother, which I'm not going to lie, can sometimes get a little annoying. Like other people could feel a little bit smothered by you, right? Because Cancer is where we get our security. The moon is where we get our security. So your security also could come a lot from your people, which can actually create some issues with knowing how to validate and meet your own needs, right? Because like, oh, it's always somebody else that like needs to meet this need for me, or if that person's not around, oh, then I can't do that, right? So there could just be a lot of needs wrapped up in and projected on other people. Now, other people can also project a lot of needs onto you. You might not even be welcoming this, right? There's also something about family and chosen family here. I just feel like the 11th house Cancer is not the traditional Cancer of like, oh, I come from a great family, I come from a great home. It's like, no, my friends are my home. My family is chosen. I am not, I'm kind of cutting my lineage off. You could have a great relationship with your family. Another possibility of this is you could have like multiple families, or you could have like, I don't know, parents that are divorced with different partners. And like, there's just a lot of extended family. But in general, I want to say there's something a little bit unconventional about the family tree and the way you're sustaining it and creating it. I feel like I could speak more to hopes and wishes with this one. Cancer in the 11th house is somebody who really wishes for kind of simple things. They don't need a lot to get going materially, right? It's more emotional for them. Like that's more what they need to feel supported, to feel like their hopes and wishes are coming true. But on the material level, I think these people are very smart. Right? They have Gemini up there in the 10th house. If Cancer's there, also, if you have the moon there, we can think of this in this way as well a little bit. That, Gemini is trying to just kind of have a good conversation, have a good cup of coffee, shoot the shit. Cancer is, it's like, well, I'm going to get to that by really being present with other people, having good connections, having solid foundations to sit on. So these people are really working on building a family, building a soft, stable kind of foundation through which, a home can arise. And what is a home but kind of a comfortable vessel, right? That we just live our lives through. So these people are working on finding safety in the group, in the community, without being too protective or too attached. So that can be a little bit hard with moon stuff, but this is a really beautiful placement. It shows you care a lot about the people in your life. Okay, last but not least, we've arrived at the Sun or Leo in the 11th house. So the Sun is about our identity, our ego, our expression, our legacy. So having the Sun or Leo in the 11th house shows somebody who actually can be really a group leader. Like this is somebody who the group, kind of similar to Jupiter in the 11th house, the group looks to and they're like, wow, you know what you're doing. You're blazing bright. We see you. The problem of this placement can be that these people can get a little bit in their own way because, they can think, oh, well, I know what I'm doing. I have the light, I have the answers, I have the clarity. And while that could be very true, in some cases, the sun needs to set, right? Other people can feel very seen, can feel very supportive if the sun has that right amount of kind of expression outwards. But people can also feel a bit burnt or blinded or like, that's a lot. I mean, I will give a sad example of this. Donald Trump has Sun in the 11th house. And, he's a wildly popular politician, media figure for, positive and negative, well, more so negative these days reasons. And, people either kind of love him or hate him, right? That's also his Gemini 11th house a little bit. But he has the Sun there. So yes, other people see you. Your light is bright. You are there. But do other people also do they feel seen in your presence? And I feel like that is the key to Sun in the 11th house is you are learning really how to take those solar qualities of leadership and diffuse them through a community. So it's like, how can everybody have a voice at the table? How can I use my light? Because the sun is about using our light to illuminate or clarify things for others. Like, how can I just be the light in the room that casts clarity over everything that's dark and help other people arrive at their own answers? Because the other possibility of Sun or Leo in the 11th house is that you could just have friends who are very smart and that are just very independent and they really can see things for themselves. That can also be a struggle of this placement is that you can have friends who not are selfish, but that are very I don't know, they're big personalities. So sometimes people with this placement, this is often the Libra rising chart if you put Leo there. Sometimes these people can feel a little bit like, oh, where's my light? You know, because Libra struggles with that kind of like, do I submit or do I dominate in relationships? Like, where do I sit in a relationship? So, you know, the sun in the 11th house, it's funny because none of these videos I do are planned. I just kind of um, speak off the top of my tongue. And I wasn't expecting to get to Leo in the 11th house and feel all these different sides to it. But there really are, because Leo and the sun are just such these strong individual energies that you could feel that from other people, or you yourself could be that. So I think the real question is like, what community are you creatively supporting and nurturing? And does it come from this place of, I got to be on top, I got to be the leader, or like, I have so much light to give, right? Like, I have so much to give. I have so much to give that if people take it or if they don't take it, you know, who cares? Because I'm the sun, I have the light to give. So that could, I guess, be another shadow here is, you know, pushing ourselves a lot onto other people and having to learn, okay, I can be generous. Not everybody has to accept my light. I can always offer it, but not everyone needs to take it, right? And these are also people who hopes and wishes, my goodness, aspire for big things in life. These people aim big, you know, it's like they want to shine. And I think sometimes in the 11th house, we do tend to start out in a group that's a bit more powerful than us. And so we can feel that kind of insecurity here of like, oh, I'll never get there. You know, oh, everybody has such a big light. What about me? But as soon as you start shining your light, people go, yes. I mean, again, this is the sun, the planet of power and generosity and creativity. Like in the house of groups. I mean, are you kidding? That's such a great placement. It's power, and therefore you learn to use it wisely. And when you do start using it from that strong inner core, other people are just going to rally around you. They're going to really say, I want to be part of this. This person knows what they're doing. They have clarity. They have insight. Um, and they are light. They give light. They give humor. They give, an uplifting feeling. So very charismatic placement. It's just about working out those power issues of kind of dominance and other people dominating you versus you dominating, right? Like you have to find that healthy balance there with sun in the 11th house. But it's an incredible placement. Very, very powerful. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little tour day 11th house with me. Always have so much fun just riffing and making these videos. So if you enjoyed, leave a comment, subscribe. We'll be back on the podcast next week, but thought I'd just kind of put up this little 11th house video for you guys, and I hope it's enjoyable. So thanks so much for watching. My links to my socials and reading bookings are in the show notes below. So see you guys next time. Bye.